You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
They let you in, huh?
Yeah, I got. We had some technical difficulties over here in Poland, but the little techno man right here, look at him. He figured it out. But he had to. So I got his camera, his mic, and we're pretending I'm on here. Yeah, so I don't know.
Wow. So uninterrupted for an hour.
Yeah.
God bless us, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it like over there? Give me the deets.
You know, it's very.
Hold on, I'll show them.
Set the pace as long as you finish. Consumers find a way inside your business. Fabulous, they try to dabble in it and they hate the fact that they may have to witness. You try to aim for the top like this and you're in your element with a fire like this. And they hoping you fall and they praying you miss. But it's all in the risk. I got you with the switch, you know. I'm in the zone. Give me the throne. One shot, that's all that you got. That's all that I know. Foot on the gas.
Wow.
That's how it's going, I guess. Did you see me in the stands?
The two hot dogs, the bowl of popcorn and a beer.
It was popcorn. Yeah, it was popcorn.
Yeah.
They didn't serve alcohol there, but anyways, it was pretty neat. They actually got to play in the soccer stadium, so that was fun. But from your ancestry here is very interesting.
Yeah,
We did get we got a chance to go through Auschwitz as well.
Ooh.
Which was very, very interesting.
It's heavy on the heart. That one is.
Yeah, have you been there?
I have not. No, I've pretty extensively researched the topics though, and it's tough.
Yeah, so did I, but until you actually see it, and then it's just crazy. I mean,
yeah, it makes you want to cry. I mean, it's really it's heart-wrenching for sure.
The thing was, I mean, just in Auschwitz alone, there's a couple of the camps, but the one, which is number 2, Auschwitz 2, I mean, that had to be, Nick, wouldn't you say that was 100 acres?
Huge.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And I mean, and a lot of it got destroyed. They tried to, I mean, they blew up the gas chamber, and they tried burning down some of the stuff before they were able to save some of it. But I mean, there was like hundreds of like old chimneys, like just lined up in the fields. And it was crazy. I mean, to see like, you'd see like the old pictures of them digging these ditches, and then you could see the ditches, and it was just, something else.
The old Victor Perchetsky, my great grandfather, thank him for being insightful enough to get out of there before all that happened.
Oh, really?
That's the only reason why we're here, man. We haven't been here that long. You know, but
What city? Ask him what city.
What city were you in?
Minsk.
That's
Minsk.
Belarus. That's Belarus.
Yeah.
That's
It was at one time, I believe, when we were there, they called it Poland. Now I believe, is Belarus.
Yeah.
It's been Russia before. It's been, I mean, that country's been poked on, beat up, and punched quite a few times.
Yeah. How do you like my new camera angle here, Andy? It's kind of like
it really makes you look stunning.
Thank you. I can't believe. I mean, this is like really clear. I mean, all my cameras are like cracked, and I mean, if we put on mine, you can barely even see it. I said it looked better.
I would say at least 10 years younger for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
But that is, I mean, here expense wise, it's a good place to go with inflation. I'll tell you that.
So give me a couple quick examples. Like, what you go out for dinner? Is it $4 or is it $20 or what do you?
Well, let's just say that I had two beers, like a barbecued rib dinner kind of thing, and a Diet Coke. And after it's all done and said, it was like $17.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was pretty. I mean, it's pretty
half
inexpensive.
price.
But then there's no tipping either. And tipping, adds 20% onto your bill. So it's a very interesting place. It's really nice. People are not like, you don't feel one bit afraid. I'll tell you that. So
they do not live in fear.
no, I think they've been through everything here.
So off a little back on a topic though, did you have any chances to look at any kind of real estate investments there, or how does that work over there?
I was telling Nick that I think it was just yesterday. I'm like, I haven't seen a real estate sign anywhere. And he said, "Oh, I've seen a couple, but I didn't notice anything around here." And no, didn't do really anything real estate wise as far as Poland is concerned. I have a kid that's over here that's always trying to think we should be buying in Italy or Brazil or whatever, but I don't know. Poland, I think, weather's a lot like Minnesota weather, so I don't think it would be a destination spot. I'll say
weird, funny thing though, that my ancestry, they actually raised Polish Arabian horses. They had big estates out in the country, and then they dabbled in the vodka business.
Yeah.
Weird.
Wow. Yeah. No, I looked at like where Nick lives. I mean, they have. I think it was set up for like a 1-bedroom apartment, but it's him and another American that plays football, and I think basically have a bedroom, a small kitchen, and a small bathroom. So I don't know.
Don't forget that jersey for us, Chris.
Yeah, well, at that event, they had all of this stuff, and I went up there to buy it, and I didn't have Schlattes. Is that Nick? Yeah, Schlattes. And I only had credit card because they use credit card for everything, and this is the first thing they didn't take. So he's talking to the manager because I actually leave tonight. I'm going to end up sleeping in the airport.
Wow.
Biostocks, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways.
Well, at least you got a chance to go out there and see what it's all about. I've never done that. I've wanted to always try it and do it. And you got a perfect excuse. I'm
glad I did, but I missed what's happened in the market. So we had a couple things sell while I was gone. So that was nice. But how's everything else going?
Well, the Fed wasn't kidding. They did raise rates 0.75%. So the markets have been going crazy the last couple hours, up and down, or down and up. Actually, they're bouncing back. But, everybody's screaming recession, and that they don't know if these rate hikes will do much good or not. But I'll tell you, when it comes to showings, it has really slowed down, Chris. I just listed a couple this week where it's the first time I've listed a house in years where we don't have showings booked when we're actually going active. And, but we it's really cool though. Some of the technology that's there that helps me feel better about what we're doing is that we can see now, they call it the dashboard on the MLS. So when a real estate agent sets somebody up on a search, we can see that our property meets the criteria for that search. So we know that people are seeing it. We can see how many people have opened it. We can see if the agent has opened it. We don't see their name, but we can see that, hey, 35, 40, 50 agents have opened this. So we know if it's a good property to market to other agents. And then we also, more importantly, can see if they've been putting it as their favorites. So that means usually there's showings on its way. And but then we did an open house last night, had a couple people come through, anticipating it's a little slower of a market right now with all these people kind of anticipating things, right? They're kind of, I think the summer distractions and a little bit of market fears are just giving us kind of a combo this week. And God bless America, by next week, we'll forget all about it and it'll be back to normal. But, for right now, I think we're seeing a little bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly right. It's what's going to happen is that people just got to get used to it. They're going to get used to the new normal. It's going to hit them hard. But when you start seeing stats like, you could afford, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, you could afford 200,000 more home for the same amount of price. I mean, that starts getting a little, that's a hit. That's a smack, right?
Well, but I've got a young couple that we're working with that just moved back from Colorado. And their perspective on life is so refreshing. They're like, interest rates don't matter to us at all. Our goal is to put, 40% down. We've been saving for 8 years. We're putting 40% down, and we're going to have our house paid off in 10 years anyway. So the rates to us don't make a long-term bit of difference. And they appreciate that, like affordability. They don't want to start with an $800,000 pile of whatever to pay off. They want to start with a 400 or a 350, and they know that realistically they can have it paid off in their allotted amount of time. I'm seeing more people now that, and I'm telling you, Chris, it's the Gen Zs that watched the Gen Xs suffer, I believe, back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, where their parents were losing houses. They're educated, they're smart, they still want to own houses, but they're owning them on financial gains where they're putting big deposits, they're securing low interest rates. Their goal is to pay the house off, not just live in it and live in the payment like we've talked about for years. They're living in the price. And really an interesting strategy, because if you pay everything off, you have no debt, life's pretty easy.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
But we've all been trained, debt, buy this, put it on payments, buy that, put it on payments. You have to have a credit score. You don't have to have a credit score if you pay cash for everything.
I was just saying, Nick does that one podcast as well. And there was a little something on there that people are financing pizzas, that you can finance your pizza, that Domino's pizza. I mean, come on. So
that person's comfortably on the slope to bankruptcy.
Yeah, totally.
They won't change their lifestyle. They still need to live it. And as long as they have credit, they'll spend it. So interesting experiment there for Domino's.
Yeah. No, it's good. Awesome. Well, Andy, you just said it right there. Fed delivers the biggest interest rate hike in decades to combat our little inflation that's happening here. So, yeah.
Remember, Chris, I mean, and I know you know this, but just to remind the kind of the viewers and listeners, just because we have a rate hike doesn't necessarily mean that rolls directly over to interest rates on mortgages. So there are other factors that go into that. And a lot of our lenders, banks, if you will, have already anticipated this rate hike and have already adjusted their pricing ahead of time, like 4 months ago. And so that's why rates jumped up so fast 4 months ago on interest for mortgages. And so now, it'll be interesting to see this morning. I haven't had a chance to check yet where the mortgage rates are at based on that jump, but I'm sure they'll jump up and then they relax the next day and, and then they bounce around. But
yeah, you kind of get to play with them. But I think what's interesting too is that I'm starting to see different programs that we used to do quite a bit a long time ago starting to come back, where we had, buy down the interest rates, taking maybe a little higher rate even, and then not paying closing costs to wait for them to kind of reshuffle a little so you can refinance, and getting sellers to pay closing costs. That's going to start happening again. So there's a lot of little programs. I mean, I think banks are going to get more involved, because not Freddie and Fannie, they can kind of use portfolio products, get you maybe some better rates and stuff. So I think it's going to definitely be interesting. I was always talking about the whole inventory thing and, not enough inventory. But I mean, if we lose quite a few buyers and, the inventory starts matching what buyers we have out there, well, yeah, that's going to be a problem. But I believe everyone's worried too. I mean, because it's still going good.
I'm with you. I think that's exactly what is happening right now, Chris, is that people are adjusting to the new normal, right? So as they have $400 less of spending money per month, and they still need to buy a house, and they're out there because there's people that want to buy houses and there's people that need to buy houses, right? Your physical needs are different now, so you need one level living, or you have more children, or you maybe mom and dad moving back in, or the kids moving back in with mom and dad, and so you need more space. That will continue the market moving. There's still, even with the people getting out of the market, I still think there's enough demand for housing because of the shortages we've had. I mean, we've been building well, and everybody says, "Oh, you're crazy." We're building so many houses. We're still well beneath what statistically they need to fulfill for housing, and people are stacking, they're cocooning, whatever you want to call it, where you've got multi-generational housing happening all over the place, and assuming that not everybody needs to have their own individual home, but statistically each family with their direct children are considered a family, right? So and then mom and dad and extra kids, this is all new to the equation, but they're still saying we're short. So I think the biggest challenge, Chris, is to resolve all of this. They're building more apartments, and then they're also at the same time they're trying to build single family homes and townhouses. Well, again, remember last week or the week before I was telling you guys I was out looking at townhouses in Maple Grove out off of what is that out there, Bass Lake Road and 101. And the townhouses were in the 500s for townhouses. And and then you look at the new houses in that area, they start at 800 and go up from there. So it's like new construction is kind of started to dominate the top of the upper middle class, So anyway.
All right. Well, guess what, Andy?
What?
This next, I've been told by our producer, who's flipping away on his little computer, that the next segment is brought to you by Andy Praske at Remax Advantage Plus and the Preferred Home Team.
Well, they said I could have 30 seconds on the show for a quick ad. Andy Praske, Remax Advantage Plus, Andy@Praske.com if you want to email us. Here's the thing, 22 years in the business, over 1,400 sales. I'd like to help you with your real estate needs. If that's buying, if that's selling, if that's building, whatever it is, give us a call, send us an email. Let's get you started on your real estate journey. I'd like to help you on the way. Lots of experience here, and I would like to put it to work for you. Andy Praske, Remax Advantage Plus. Thanks for listening to the show.
You kept trying to do your own commercials, and I missed that one. I like the little car flying through there.
Yeah, those sound effects happen in my head all the time too.
I bet. Well, we're gonna do some real estate memes.
All right.
Pretty soon we're gonna be able to do these ourselves, Andy. We're gonna record ourselves doing these.
No.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we gotta do that again because I gotta read it. What does it say? First-time home buyers compete with hedge funds to buy a house, with some funny faces.
Yeah,
that girl I've seen her.
Little baby girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. There's, I think I saw something that 20% of the home buyers were institutions, or they were investors supposedly. But how they, I think it was Redfin. I think actually we're going to talk about that today. But Redfin was saying that an investor, how they determine if it's an investor is if there's an incorporated, a corporation, a trust, or something that says homes in the buyer's name. So, a lot of people buy homes and trusts. So it might not be super right on, but 20% of institutions or investors buying the houses is pretty crazy.
That was 2012. If I remember the stats were correct, they were very similar, even a little more aggressive than that. Almost 28% at one time was all investor based. A lot of that was Warren Buffett's group, the H2. They called themselves H2 Homes or whatever it was. But anyway, they were for years buying houses. And here's something to think about, guys and gals that are listening. If you have institutions investing into the housing market right now and you're competing against them, what does that tell you about where they think the direction of the market's going to head?
Tell us.
Well, I believe that they feel that there's going to be solid appreciation for the next 3 to 5 years is what they can forecast. I think a lot of bigger investors like the fact that interest rates are going up a little bit. It makes more people eligible to buy in the housing market, become part of the homeownership process. And I think that there's also upside there. So when they look at that and they look at, like how many people need to rent versus, credit scores and whatever else, that's something you and I don't talk about a lot. But when you look at national credit scores and you look at like some of the cities like Houston, Texas, that have an average credit score that's around, 580, which is like, that means there's a lot of people down there not paying their bills. And so they become renters by bad habits. And so then you look at some of the areas like Minneapolis where it's in the, I don't remember, it was close to 700 and, and anything over 700 is pretty close to perfect. So it's not a perfect score for those of you that are the engineer brains. It's not a perfect score, but it's in the eyes of a creditor, you're considered to be really good. So, but anyway, yeah, so it's something to think about. So they're anticipating people having consumer credit issues in the future. They're assuming that pocket's going to appreciate. A
lot of things that happened too, Andy, was there's a lot of people like myself that started, had been in rentals for a long time. And the onesie, twosie, 10Z, 30s people, started dumping them because they were able to get out of them and get their money back, and just kind of beat up over the last 15 years in the rental market. And there's no rentals left. And so there's a definite need for rental properties. So they're grabbing them for that as well.
Yep.
Never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, an agent how old their headshot is. We're the different ones. We're on here every single week showing people what we look like. I have to get different cameras though to make me look younger, like you said.
Yeah, I have filters we can put on there for you, Chris.
Okay. Yeah.
My daughter goes on them. She goes, you can do anything you want. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't want to look like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny when you do see the cards though, and then you finally meet them, and when you meet them and they're surprised you don't know who they are. It's like, well, hey, I mean, this totally looks totally different than what you look like.
Well, especially if you're changing your hair color, hairstyle, the whole point of putting your picture on there is to connect with people, right? So I think I know that person, or I've seen that person before. And so then all of a sudden you show up, you don't look anything like your picture. What's the point then of putting a picture on your card? You might as well not put a picture on your card and actually have nothing on there. And, but back in the day, that was the way they said people would connect with you. They don't know your name from church, but they remember your face. And so they'll use you because, or whatever the affiliation or school or whatever, right?
Yeah. Always remember the greener grass on the other side of the fence may be due to a septic tank issue.
So true.
That's a good one.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
A lot of counties have different requirements in regards to septic certifications when you sell. So not in all of them that you have to do it. You don't have to do it. There's some that require testing all the time. There's some that, hey, if you don't have a problem, there's no problem. And sometimes you can get tested and a problem can come up, and you can be on a time clock too to be able to get it fixed. So it's not, and I think there's a lot of people that, typically a lot of times acreage is more expensive, and agents move from county to county showing these houses. They don't really know the rules. And sometimes you can kind of hurt your buyer, such as you decide to have a septic certification done or ask for one, and the agent's like, okay, we can do it. Everything works and everything's fine. But you bring that up, and all of a sudden the county now says you got to have that replaced in 5 or 10 years. And at that point, I mean, what was happening was that, I'm not going to do it. It's going to be put on you. And so from a buyer perspective, you just put yourself on the clock where you didn't have to be able to put yourself on the clock. It could have worked in your favor. We saw that a few times because it'll probably start coming back now, but bad wells or not wells, but if the water is bad, I mean, you can do things for that. But if the septic is bad, I mean, the septic's going to cost you $25,000, maybe $30,000. And there's I would think a seller, well, I know sellers in this market, we're just saying, forget it. You've got 5 or 10 years on that thing. You put one in when you're ready in which to be able to do it. So you got to just kind of be careful with that.
Amen. I always say an ounce of prevention is worth, a bucket of remedy, because you sit there and you have these people that are coming at you when they want to buy a house. They don't want the mystery of does this work? Does this test clean? Does this, you know what I mean? So I'm listing one. I've actually got a new one coming in Andover on acreage, and very proactive, getting the septic tested up front. And remember this, ladies and gentlemen, just because your toilet's flush and it doesn't bubble up in your yard or turn your yard green does not mean necessarily that you're compliant. You know what I'm saying? So when you have a situation where you've been living there, especially if it's a couple and there's 2 people living there and the house was 4-bedroom house, that septic system is oversized for 2 people intentionally, because they always have to size it for how many bedrooms and whatever. But long story short, that leaves you with is it compliant? And you want to make sure it's compliant because it can be very expensive to fix. You might want to adjust it. And then if it happens during negotiations, Chris, what happens? You and I both know what happens. It ends up becoming a negotiating chip, because now you have to negotiate the $30,000 problem versus saying, hey, we put a brand new septic in and setting your price accordingly, right? If you do it up front, it's a value. It's a proactive value-added item. If you don't do it, it becomes a problem. And speaking of septic systems, this septic system is brought to you by Chris Rooney, the home experts.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
I apologize in advance. Oh, that was funny. You guys have your sound off, or you're just not talking to me?
Now I do. My technical producer is doing that. But here you go, Andy. Look who's laying off people. Redfin.
Yoo-hoo, baby!
Whoa.
Redfin is laying off some people. You know, you've always had some comments on that.
Oh, sorry.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, this is a company that is salary heavy and not driven based on performance. And so when you have the statistics of saying, hey, there's less business on the way, they need to size their business appropriate for the commodity service that they provide. So if you want commodity service, it's probably a fantastic outfit for you. And I mean that sincerely. For all the people that wanted to streamline real estate, and it doesn't matter how good you are at your job, you just need somebody to open up the doors. That's what this is. And they don't have enough business coming in to keep paying salaries for all the people that are sitting there waiting for the app to ring and say, hey, somebody wants a showing, So they just have to lay people off. Same thing with Compass, I think, had the same challenge this week where they were pulled off the New York Stock Exchange because their values are so low.
Oh, you're kidding. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Compass was pretty run by Redfin or something like that. This guy, young guy, super sharp. They had tons of money. They'd come into marketplaces and they would buy. I mean, Chris, you and I heard these stories where they were coming in and offering like some of these big teams $500,000 to move their whole team over, and then they'd give them free advertising agency like service in the brokerage, and so they could just sit back and be the rock star salesperson. And they were backed up by a very expensive, obviously top heavy advertising machine. And that also this week, if you Google it, they had some trouble, laid out a ton of people off, and they were pulled off the stock exchange.
Wow, I didn't hear that. I know they're just starting to make a mark in the Twin Cities too. They started coming here. I know they were kind of focusing on each of the coasts and on the bottom there, and I hadn't heard that at all.
Right. Well, that's okay. And the thing is that I think that what more or less I'm trying to say is that it has a situation where here's a company trying to do something different. And this is kind of the problem with real estate, Chris, is that, you sit there and we keep wanting to evolve the industry and change it, but it keeps coming back to good agents, help people make good decisions. And they keep going back to what works. And this is a situation of where, you can't, put the target spin on real estate necessarily, where it's cool merchandising, cool, hip ads, and then people come in and just buy it like a commodity. Real estate is not a commodity, guys. And I think that'll continue. Any company that glamorizes the commodity side of this industry, I think there's room for those kind of companies, but at a different pay structure. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't pay a company that's a discount, salary based, somebody 7%, and all of their business models are based off getting paid 6 or 7%, and that's just not where it's at. I mean, an agile agent on their feet, somebody that is independent, like, again, not to toot Remax's horn, but Remax empowers agents to be independent and they can make business decisions that are right for their clients and, set rates at different fees and do different programs. that's where I see the value. That's why I've been with Remax for 22 years. I'm not plugging them because I pay rent to be there. I'm just saying it because it provides the tools that I see my customers needing.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously both with Remax. Remax is interesting because we're totally separate, different companies, but we both have the Remax brand behind both of us. So, gosh, I've been doing it. God, I can't believe, but I'm going on my 9th year with Remax. I spent 23 years at the other one, and it just seems like that's crazy.
You know what though? I loved Realty House though too. I thought for a boutique, local owned, what a fun, great company and great people. And, I always enjoyed, whenever we'd swing in there and have meetings or whatever, I always enjoyed that office too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Anyways, I do that. Realty House is funny because there's a lot of us that left the Realty House, almost 40 of us. And so the company kind of went almost in half at that time, but they're still going, doing a good job. Big Garth is still over there.
Good.
Garth Johnson. Yeah. I saw him showing a house.
Have him on the show.
I know. I almost fell over. I had a showing request from a Garth Johnson at the Realty House. I'm like, what? I mean, Garth was the big, huge monster foreclosure specialist, and he did so many listings of foreclosures. Obviously, those went away. He's still a realtor, but I just thought it was like, oh my God, Garth is showing a house. This was awesome.
I thought, honestly, he was going to retire. I really did. Move up to the lake and call her good. And he's still probably, he was a cool dude. You know what I mean? So I'm sure he's loving life and enjoying the business. And
Andy, what do you think of some of the other our brands within the industry? Do you think they're gonna ever survive, or do you think it's gonna be hard?
You look at like Coldwell Banker Burnett or CBB. They were bought out by a bigger firm a few years back, and so what's cool for that is they have that boutique feel. They are a lot of times, Coldwell Banker is affiliated with their high end products. They're real expensive, luxury homes. And that's perfect. I mean, that's fine. That is a niche that needs to be fulfilled. And I think that they're, with some of their national tools that they've been brought to the table, I think agents can thrive there. I really do. It's just a matter of, how many people do you need in that luxury market? But it's a growing NRG, I think they're called now, or something like that. But other companies that are out there, the Kellers that are out there, great agents too, very independent, really built on building a team kind of a model. A lot of them where there's a big portion of their pitch to agents is education and constantly training. And their agent count is through the roof, if I'm not mistaken. And those are some of the big players that are out there. Edina, again, big firm. I still do a ton of business. It's weird. Out of all the years, you thought that, the realty houses, the Edina Realties of the world will go away. But Edina is, I believe, part of one of the big national, housing organizations. And they kept their name locally because it was so strong. It was such a good brand. And
Berkshire Hathaway.
Right. Yeah.
They've got a lot of agents. Edina still does.
Oh yeah,
it's
a great firm. Again, I think it's a great place. They again have figured out what their value is to the marketplace and continue to thrive and survive. And the one thing that I always thought was really odd to me was they used to be very real estate dominant. Like they had the big cool real estate, building on the corner in every small town, and then all of a sudden that went away. And I didn't understand that business strategy, but they've still survived and thrived. But there's a lot of great companies out there, but it really comes down to you finding an agent that has the resources behind them that fits your needs the best when you're interviewing agents. You know what I mean? And so it's the agent that does all the work. It's not the brokerage. The brokerage provides the tools. It's like having your own farm. The brokerage gives you the tools to do the farming necessarily or to take care of your crops. But you ultimately, how hard of a worker are you makes a big difference on the outcome of the success of your efforts.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Minnesota too that's unusual, really, throughout the United States, is that we have a lot of big brokerages here, and a lot of the other parts of the United States are very small. there are lots of independent type companies that are out there. So
yeah, that's true.
We're just a little different that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, producer, what am I supposed to say?
Social reacts.
Oh,
Or
social
something
media.
in Polish.
Social media reacts.
Yeah, say something Polish. Would you like?
There is something I said in Polish. Was thank you. Dziękuję. 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 I keep forgetting it. And they laugh at me.
My grandpa used to every once in a while whip some Polish out, and we did him with spaghetti, but that's all the Polish we ever had around our house, really.
Hey, now I know why they put pictures on menus, Andy. Back in the U.S., you know, I know you want to see it, but boy, that's so much easier to order over here. I just said, give me that. Whatever that picture is, I'll take it. So,
they're like, are you sure? Nobody's ever ordered that.
Come away around the counter and then kind of look up. That's very interesting. Or hey, I want what that person's eating. So
yeah,
it's very interesting.
How do you feel when you wake up in the morning?
His creditors are also dancing because they're finally getting paid back all the money he owes them.
Yeah, that meme for our radio listeners or Spotify or what else are we on, Nick?
Every platform.
Every platform. We're on every platform, but that was basically a commercial agent dancing to the street after one of his deals closed after waiting 10 years for it to happen. Jeez. They do take a little longer. You definitely get paid a lot more, but it's quite a process to go through. A lot more complicated than just buying a house.
10 years is a long time, though. That deal must have fell through 5 or 6 times. You know what I mean?
Waiting for the interest rates to change and go back, and it's like.
So, tell me what's been bothering you lately. I just saw something at a house the other day, doctor, and I just don't know how to unsee it.
Isn't that how they do it in Europe, Chris?
Yeah, why? I mean, everyone has a tub in the kitchen. I mean, geez.
Kitchen, laundry room, and a tub in the kitchen?
That's why you can get your kids cleaned up and cook a meal real quick and do the laundry. Did you see the washer and dryer was right there too?
Oh.
Yeah. That's called an efficiency. Nick, Nick, was that a photo of your place right there?
Close.
That was close. You wouldn't have that big of a tub.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they don't know about those walk-in shower things, Andy, that are so popular in the U.S. They're just a little tighter. I think they like to conserve water or something. They want you out of them. Get in and get out.
There's no translatable word for privacy over there, apparently.
Yeah. That's another story I have.
Yeah, Ma, just go ahead and jump in the tub while I'm making some dinner over here.
Well, I had I was going downstairs to my the little wellness thing, and it has a sauna, a steam shower, a salt cave, and a hot tub. Yeah, so I'm going down there, and I see through the steam of the steam shower. I'm like, okay, there's someone there. It looks like an older guy. And I'm getting closer because it's all out in the open, you know. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, good. There's underwear on. But it was not a man. It was a woman, completely stretched out. Like, what? Talk about realtor therapy. I might need that too. I'm like, where the heck am I?
Did you hear that?
Nick's like,
Winky?
Nick's like, what's the big deal? I mean, that's what they do around here. I'm like, well, let's just say I'm not used to that. So
you didn't push anything up against the glass window, did you?
There was plenty to see.
Sorry about that, ma'am. I just don't fit in here very well.
Hello, are you really doing that? You know, kind of thing. But the weird thing was her arms were like completely stretched out like this. It was just like, what is going on?
Why is your leg in the air, Chris? You're stretching out.
Yeah.
You have your leg up like this. You're like.
I started doing jumping jacks.
Oh my God.
Okay, back to real estate.
Hey, this is my morning routine as someone with top producer in their bio. Bespoke suit from Macy's. Love it. Fits beautifully. Hair gel. Super important. I exude success. Fear me. This is my watch collection. It's valued at just under $500. I know. Look at this Armani, beautiful. Spent $80 on that. Light brown patent leather Alfani shoes, $19.99. I buy them by the dozen. Then I make cold calls and, just trying to make it all happen. Give me a call if you want to buy real estate.
I can't say nothing. That was my bio.
Was there a proper amount in there, Andy, of hair gel?
He was a little aggressive on the gel. Yeah,
He was. Oh, that was a good one.
You just got to cut your hair shorter. You don't need as much gel then.
Yeah. How can't you like that guy? Hair gels and watches. That's Andy. Andy, are you a watch guy?
Yes.
Oh, you are.
I do. In my closet at home, I have my $500 display of watches, and we have a closet system in our walk-in closet, and I just, for whatever reason, I just put all because I never wore. I like watches, and I couldn't see them because they're all in a drawer. So then I put them on those watch holder things, So now it looks like I'm a watch dealer. As you walk into our closet, it's like, whoa. Then you realize there's not a watch on there that's over $50, and then you're like, oh, that's too bad.
I don't ever remember you wearing a watch. I guess I don't look too close, but
I like watches. I used to always, you know what it was? Honestly, I'm very balanced. So if I have one ring, I have to have another ring. If I have a watch, I used to wear a gold bracelet, and I haven't wore a gold bracelet in years.
That's good.
Years.
That's good.
No, but I wore a pretty big one. It was nice and thick and heavy. It was a nice looking, you know what I'm talking about. Those kind of.
Yeah. You got to bring it back. You got to get a chain and everything.
Unbutton.
Yeah, unbutton your shirt a little, couple extra.
None of that's gone away. It's all been cleaned and stored for when it does come back.
It's coming back. I like it. Awesome.
I'm ready.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces.
That's funny.
That's been it's been a way of having some issues after losing offers. I just lost one yesterday. It was multiple offers, and we ended up losing. But it's always one of those that it's just like, oh man, because you feel so bad for your client. Not necessarily as the agent. They're going to end up buying something else, and they typically they'll find what works for them. But it's kind of a melancholy type moment.
For sure. Hopefully, like with things relaxing a little bit now, not every property, but they'll still be the hot properties. But I think it's actually, if you're listening to this, it is a good time today, this week, next week, probably to get into the back end of the market, because I think things are kind of slowing a little bit. So if you were fatigued before, and with all the news that's been happening and all the crazy things, there might be a real nice window of opportunity where there's not a lot of people shopping with you. So you could probably secure the deals and get the property, which I'm not saying they're going to give them away, because people aren't going to start giving away their houses, but you'll be able to get a property that you want.
Yeah, that's you're 100% right. And I think there's some sellers that are going to be out there that are going to get really nervous over this. And
I've already started to see it. I've seen where people call me and say, I don't want to miss the top of the market. I want to sell. It's like, well, what do you mean the top of the market?
Yeah.
And that strategy, what happens? It always fails. When people try to time any market, it's horrible.
We all remember the worst time ever was 2008, right? It was going to be the worst thing. We were selling houses all the time in 2008. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, it took a little longer, but things are still going to sell, and they're going to sell if they're good. But I think that I got a little taste of that as I was coming over here. I obviously had some preconceived notions of what I was going to see in Poland. I didn't quite believe everything Nick was telling me. One of it is that, we're right next to a war. Supposedly a supposed war that's going on. And there's just not one sign of that, and not one area that I'm afraid to walk through, and that's just kind of like this whole real estate thing. It's just social media and news. It's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing for society, because there's nothing you can believe anymore. So you got to get out there and see it yourself. And then the people that are in it and seeing it, understand it.
Nothing you can believe except this show. This show's real.
Well, it is. I mean, because we're telling you what's happening. I mean, really on a weekly type basis. And, a lot of the news is, especially with stats, when stats come into play, I mean, that's a month later. So it's already been done. So we saw it was slowing down, that things were happening, but the prices weren't getting hit. Now, yeah, were we getting less buyers? Yeah, we certainly were. But trying to time the market and make it, hey, it's the top of the market, it's the bottom of the market. It's never going to happen. It's never going to work.
I've noticed this last week here too. I'm part of I'm Ramsey trusted. So Dave Ramsey, the national debt reduction guy. I'm one of his trusted agents, right, in the Twin Cities. And so what all that means is that we're trained on their philosophies and strategies and whatever. And so I've been watching a lot of his recent posts, and he's been talking about how housing, even to his people who are very conservative, he's saying it's time to buckle down and go buy that house. Avoid mortgage insurance if you can, put your 20% down, put it on a 15-year mortgage if you can. But if you're a first-time buyer, get in the market with a 5% or a 3.5%, down. Because he said, I think in 5 years you'll look back and really appreciate that you did. And the cost of money will be more expensive. The cost of the houses will be more expensive. And that take advantage of this lull in the marketplace to really, get out there and get your name on a property.
Yeah, I think the one good thing maybe of a little slowdown, recession, whatever you want to call it, is that a lot of these people won't have time to be thinking about all these stupid things that are coming out and happening. The things that we worry about. You're going to have to start worrying about, how to buy your next, vehicle versus, all the crap that's out there right now.
Yep.
Every way, both ways. It doesn't matter. It just kind of gets to a point that, we got to start looking at what really matters, not, all the other.
But remember when we were kids, you were worried about, hey, everybody should drive a Ford Ranger because they make them in St. Paul, and the auto industry goes down, we lose jobs, whatever. I don't know where the hell those things are made anymore anyway. They're made by robots in Kentucky or whatever. They're made partially assembled in Mexico or Canada and delivered to the States. It's like we don't have that. I mean, if cars don't sell, the widgets that are sold to those manufacturers will obviously be affected. But a lot of those industries have already isolated themselves from having to worry about employees and, and the woes of the economy, because they're producing a machine that produces widgets that they sell. And it's an interesting world that we're in now, because who cares if everybody only goes down to one car? The automakers will, but my uncle's not getting laid off from the plant. You know what I mean? And, anyway.
Good point. Good point.
I like this guy.
I think that's what it's all about. You start finding the personality out of these people. But for our listener only, it was a guy who was trying to figure out how to pretend that he was busy, and so he's showing all these different behind the scene photos of him, moving furniture for a seller, which was propped up by a stool, or taking a picture of it in a kitchen, which was in a studio, a cabinet studio. So it's kind of fun.
Well, unfortunately, perception's reality, right?
Yeah, totally.
Have you ever caught anyone doing that?
If we ever caught, Nick's asking if we ever caught anyone doing stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's agents that use other people's listings. And if you look into it, a little further, they might post it or say something on social media about it. But people might think it's theirs, but it's not. But
yeah, I think if you have a license where you can use that photograph, I mean, maybe you can buy that from a Photoshop, whatever kind of site, and then you can use it. But the reality is that you can't just go grab somebody else's house that's not yours and market it as, he didn't say anything. He said, make it look like you have listings. Make it look like you have listings on the way. Like, hey, check this house out. I do think a little bit of that happens, but we have to be a little bit careful with that as well, because the coming soon laws and all that, the one thing I was kind of curious about talking about, and I know you've been gone this week, but there's been some buzz about the lawsuit that's happening against NAR with the buyer's rep commission, and that they've talked about having to separate that or not offer a cooperative commission anymore on the MLS. That was the buzz this week. And saying where, you're going to list a property, you're going to list it for a fee. The buyer driving around has to have a fee that they have to pay somebody to help them, and they want it to be separated. And I'm like, what if people don't want to separate it? What if I'm an agent and I'm okay with having that in there, or a seller, and I'm okay with paying out a buyer's rep commission, because it'll make buyers, all that's going to happen. I should say this. Initially, the people that make us separate that will offer some kind of a bonus. Like, hey, bring us a buyer, successful closing. If you're under contract for 2.7, we'll still pay it for you. Because that part of the industry is kind of weird. I don't know how they can unravel all of that, but what's your opinion on that, Rooney?
I didn't know that was going on, but that would be interesting. What's NAR? What's their position on it?
Well, NAR is the one being sued. And so they're being sued. A conglomerate of real attorneys got together and decided to say, hey, like, in theory, you're not disclosing to me that I had to pay more for my house to pay my buyer's agent, right? So they're saying, and it's like, but if you do your paperwork like we do every time before we take you out and look at a house, it says right on there, you're obligated to pay me 2.7% if it's not paid by the seller. It's already disclosed. It's already clear as day. People just don't read it. It says right in there that your obligation to me as a buyer's agent is to pay me 2.7%. So if you understand that before you go shopping, you're relieved when they pay the 2.7% for you, because then you don't have to finance it. You don't have to pay it in cash, pay it with, traded services, whatever that might be. I mean, and the IRS will hate all of that too, because now you start getting people out there shopping for houses. And let's say that, I'm a car guy and I say, hey, you help me find a house, I'll give you this $10,000 car. And all of a sudden I'll sell it to you for $1. And there'll be a lot of missed opportunities there for tax capture. And so I don't see how this will iron out, but it's a big deal right now.
No opinion.
Okay.
Just because I just think it's all silly. I mean, when we go list a house, we list it, and the commission is paid to me as the listing agent. And I determine if I want to be able to share it with someone else. I disclose that to my seller, that I'm going to share it with someone else, if someone represents a buyer, to be able to bring it in. What the heck is wrong with that?
Nothing. And a lot of commercial properties, they still charge 6, 7, 8% to sell commercial properties, and they don't offer out a cooperative commission. They keep the full commission.
Mm-hmm.
So those of you buying commercial properties, usually when you hire your agent, you have to have an arrangement where you up front know that you're going to be financing their commission on top of the purchase. So you buy $1 million building, you might be putting another $27,000 on top for the agent's time and effort and energy.
Yep. What? You have to the divorce.
Is he anticipating a new listing?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. New listings. Yep, you got it. That's awesome. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
right,
it is.
We got some questions.
Ooh, I better hit a little caffeine to get going.
That's Greg. Here we go. Were either of you selling real estate in the 80s when the mortgage rates were double digit? I remember my mom and dad were both in real estate at that time. Right around when I graduated, they were in that upper 15 to 17%. But when I got into real estate, I remember that they're at 10.5% is what they were. And I couldn't believe it when they got under 10. And a lot of times we paid points to be able to get to 10 or a little lower. But that's I remember it well. I mean, it hurt. It hit my mom and dad really hard. I remember that. So,
yeah, you heard a lot about back then in the 80s, assumable mortgages, which Nowadays, a lot of people don't even understand what that is, but I'll tell you what, you have a interest rate of, 3-4%, and then you go to sell your home and somebody will pay off the gap between the sale price and the amount that the mortgage is owed. And that gap sometimes can be very beneficial because now your payment's lower. They can assume the mortgage based on qualification, that you can come in and take over that mortgage, start paying the payment at that 3.5 or 4.5 or whatever percent. That is a huge asset for a lot of people, and they don't realize they have it yet.
Yeah, there was mortgages that you could assume without qualifying, and then there was some that you could assume that you had to qualify, which gave the original seller, kind of let them go free. So it was interesting, and that's what it will come back. I'll guarantee a contract for deeds will come back. It states on every mortgage pretty much that there's a due on sale clause, meaning if I transfer my ownership, that it has to be paid off in full. But what people do is they just take a contract for deed, and you pay me as the seller. I'm going to give you a better interest rate, or I'm trying to make money. I mean, if I have a mortgage rate that's at 3% and I could charge someone 6%, not only did I sell my house for a good price, I'm also going to get 3% more on my money. That maybe
you're saying like on a contract for deed,
right?
Yep,
that's going to happen. I'm telling you,
big time.
So
lock up the money while it's cheap.
There you go.
That's the thing. 30-year mortgage trust.
Yeah. Okay. A 30-year mortgage crossed 6.13%.
So
remember when it started, Andrew? When they were giving in 2000, after the whole thing happened in 2008, I think it was around 6%. And then wasn't that when they were given that little stipend too? It was like $6,500 or $7,500, and then enticing to buy a house.
That went away. I think it was October 28th, 2010. I remember the day because I cried. I was like, "It's over. We don't have any money to give away." It was. Yeah. I remember I had so many buyers that were. It was straight up chaos. They would come in with FHA 3.5% down. Mom and dad would gift them that 3.5%. They would lock in an interest rate of about 6%, whatever it was, and they'd buy that house. And then the federal government would give us a check up to $8,500 back on their tax returns so that they could pay mom and dad off. So they basically were buying houses with no money down.
Yeah.
And now most of those houses have appreciated 100%. And
Look at that. Look at that little stat that's going around the bottom there. 585,000 at 6.13 is the same as 800,000 at 3%. It's $215,000 difference right there.
There you go.
That's what's happened in buying power. 215,000.
Yep, there you go. I think that's but like I've said this all along. I mean, who didn't refinance when rates were that cheap that wanted to refinance? I mean, they sat there at the bottom for years. I mean, my God, if you didn't take advantage of it, you didn't want to. It's not, it's not like, oh my, wait, when did rates go to 3%? They sat there. It was dead. It was like a dead fish on the sidewalk. It started to stink after a while. And you and I were even talking about that, saying rates have to go up because we just can't sit here forever, right? A healthy market needs, 5, 6, 7%. Yeah.
All right. I think we're getting to the end here. I think producer, I don't know what he's searching for something, but what is a producer? You can talk too. You can say something.
Nope, I'm not. Just make sure, tell them to subscribe to our YouTube, leave a review on Spotify, iTunes, 3 digestible clips each week on Facebook and YouTube. Give us a like, thumbs up, and have a great week. We'll see you next week.
See you back in the U.S.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.